Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another Sree's Daily Global COVID-19 show. We are live every day to talk about what's happening with the COVID-19 crisis. This is day 21 of the New York City lockdown. It feels like day 101. If you're watching right now, live or later, please hit share right now, including my guests. Go on to my Facebook and hit share and tag any friends who should be watching this. We have a very special show for you, India under COVID-19. I also want to tell my son who is watching to find it on Facebook and send it on to the multiple WhatsApp groups that we're on. So he's going to do that. And we definitely want my family to know, because one of my family members is here live right now on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and YouTube. Very excited to bring you stories from what's happening in India right now. I'm live every day, and we want your questions and your comments. Please do email me, sree@sree.net, sree@sree.net. I'm also delighted to tell you that we have our first sponsor, and our sponsor is socialmediasolutions.com, and they have a very meta ad for you. Tim Sohn, who's a live streaming expert and the host of the Jim and Tim show, has a live streaming course that you can take, and the price is $0 to $100. So you get to pick the price. The course starts Monday, April 6th. So sign up by Sunday. There are just a few spots left, and go to Sohn, socialmediasolutions.com. SOHN is how you spell Sohn. We're so grateful to him for supporting this show by being a sponsor, and we'd love to have more sponsors. And if you would like to be a sponsor, just get in touch with me. The prices are very reasonable, and just email me, sree@sree.net, and ask about our pricing and how you can be a sponsor. This is the latest that we have been on this show because we wanted to get India live, and that means starting very, very late Eastern time. It is 10 p.m. Eastern, which means it is 7:30 a.m. Eastern in India. Let me now reveal to you two of my guests, and we might have more joining us if they wake up in time. So let me reveal our two guests, and here they are. Raksha Kumar, wave please. Hi, Raksha. And my dad, TP Sreenivasan. Hi.
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 Good to see you.
Yes, my dad is watching and speaking to us from Trivandrum, Thiruvananthapuram, which is the capital of Kerala, and Raksha is in Delhi. And we are just thrilled to have both of them here. I've been wanting to do an India show for a long time, but haven't had a chance. Please tag your friends and family right now so that they can join us. If we lose your signal to my India guests, just log off and log back on to the same link, and we will have you with us. So here they are. I'm going to ask my dad to say hi and tell us what is happening in India right now. What's happening in Kerala? It looks good, Acha.
I can hear you now.
I can hear. Can you hear me? Oh, I don't think you can hear me. But Raksha, why don't you start, and then we'll go to my dad.
So this is, I think, day 9 of the nationwide lockdown, and I think if in India the lockdown has a pretty different meaning. We are a extremely populous country, so a lockdown necessarily means a lockdown. We are not encouraged to go out on walks, regardless, because there is, there's no question of keeping your 3 feet, 6 feet distance from the other person. You're sharing extremely congested, dense spaces. So I think that's like a first stark difference between what I see and hear from my friends in the West, where they do take walks in the evening, where they can, afford to kind of
I can't hear you.
give out to their neighbors. We can't. So we are literally confined to our homes. But having said that, another extremely significant difference that I think needs a lot more attention than it is getting outside of India is the fact that, India houses a lot of internal migrants and a lot of migrants whose migration is circular in nature, which means that they go to specific economic hubs, be it a city, a town, a commercial center, for specific periods of time in the year, and then they tend to go back home to their villages, to their smaller towns. And this circulatory migration that is very internal in nature was not necessarily taken into account when the lockdown was announced, because we had a 4-hour heads up for a 21-hour lockdown. um, and although a lot of countries, including the WHO, lauded the Indian government for the kind of strict lockdown measures that we went into earlier on in the outbreak. I mean, we were barely 2 deaths, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, around 90 cases were tested positive when the lockdown was announced. And this was at a very, very early stage. We were definitely in stage 2 back then. There was no community transmission, at least that the government had admitted. The government has still not admitted to community transmission. So at a very early stage, we went into a complete lockdown, which was very different from the UK, the US, Spain, Italy. Um, while we did certain things which were extremely necessary, uh, what is being criticized, and rightly so until now, is the fact that internal migrants were not taken into account. So you saw a lot of people rushing to bus stations, train stations. Trains were stopped, so they people had to walk back several hundreds of kilometers to their homes. So this was a huge challenge for both the authorities to kind of ensure that they had the right kind of transport to get back to their homes. You saw people die on the way. There is a statement that was released by a whole host of extremely prominent Indian, people in the civil society. I must say, because there are lawyers, that there are ex-bureaucrats, journalists who have signed on to the statement. And according to that statement, 29 people died in the process of trying to reach home, and these are all they belong to lower middle class and poor sections of the society who were just trying to reach home in the absence of any transportation. So this is actually the big story in India that we are following, about how COVID-19 has registered. I'm not really sure how many deaths, but I'm sure we can look that up easily. But more number of people died trying to reach home.
Yeah, now I have my dad joining us by phone because he was having trouble with his computer. So we'll try one more time. Dad, can you hear me? Can you hear us? No? We were talking fine before. We're just going to give it one more chance. Others, I'm going to call you on the phone. I'm going to call you on the phone, okay? And we'll talk to him from that. Let's see here. Raksha, thank you so much for filling us in on what's going on. I'm just going to try my dad one more time. Meanwhile, everybody, please share this with your friends. Let's see who's joining us. Jonathan is joining us from the East Village. And I know Raksha has fond memories of New York for some of these places.
And the East Village.
Yeah. And Kalpana is watching from the Bay Area. Yeah, here. Okay, Dad, you're on the air. Please speak. Tell us what's happening in Kerala. Oh, we lost him again. So sorry about that. Steve says he got beat to the first comment, which is he was upset because he normally is the first comment. And then Marielle's watching from Kansas City. Have you been, Raksha?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, just talk. Okay, sorry, I have my dad again. He keeps he keeps hanging up. What about the Bay Area? You've spent time, right?
Wait, are you talking to me, Sree?
Yeah, Raksha, go ahead.
I haven't really been to the Bay Area, but literally half of my family lives there. We are Indians, we're obsessed with IT, and everybody there is just, I mean, so yeah, despite half of my family being there, I haven't really been there. But sometime soon, hopefully, when all of this gets over.
Okay, let me see if we can finally hear my dad, or he can hear us. Can you hear us? You can. Go ahead. Oh, sorry, folks. I'm sorry about that. Raksha, I'm just going to ask him a couple of questions to talk. So you can just go ahead and tell us what is the news we're missing in the U.S. about India.
So yeah, apart from what I just mentioned about the kind of trouble that people had reaching homes, I think one really interesting thing, I can also tweet out a link from the Indian Express yesterday where they interviewed, and it's a pretty extensive interview with a person a scholar from UK based university who specializes in internal migration in India, and he talks about why India's case is unique actually in the world. Not just are we one of the most populous countries, we're also literally the most populous democracy. So it becomes important for us to, to be able to take certain drastic measures, but take them with a lot more, I guess, consensus than let's say China did. So that is one distinct factor in India. So when the Prime Minister took to the national television at around 8 p.m. on the 24th of March and announced that the lockdown would begin at 12 a.m., which was 4 hours from then. I guess a lot of people were not really, and the lockdown was a 21-day lockdown. It was a 3-week lockdown. So a lot of people were not really prepared to travel distances to go home. And a lot of these migrants who come to larger cities, metropolises like Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, these are not people who can afford the high rents, which essentially means that they can't stay back in the city if they are not earning the wages for those particular days. So, and we're talking in millions, we're not talking in thousands anymore. We are really talking about millions of people trying to board buses. So the Chief Minister of Delhi might be missing dates here, but 3 to 4 days ago announced that 200 buses would take migrants back to specific places in UP and Haryana. These are neighboring states, um, and you saw by many estimates several millions of people rushing to these bus stations to board these buses. So and then they did contact tracing, and it turned out that a lot of people who were in these bus stations ended up going back to their villages, and a lot of the villages that were untouched by the disease ended up having the disease because of these people. So these are, I think this is one area which kind of went relatively unnoticed, or it was definitely an oversight by the authorities. They should have planned better. It
Raksha, so if you'll just hold that thought, my dad is
Sure.
on speakerphone with us. Go
Sure.
ahead, Dad. Tell us what's happening in Kerala where you are.
Guessed what that became a big issue in Kerala because quite unexpectedly, 1,000 of them came onto the streets despite of the lockdown and then protested saying that they wanted to go home, which was impossible. But it was very well contained, and I think they were persuaded to stay back. They were given better facilities, or at least assured that the earliest possible time they'll be sent back, etc. So that was contained, but it looked like a highly explosive situation at one time. But generally, Kerala is supposed to have done better than the other states in India, and except for this latest spike when this religious group got spread all over India, had a rather low figure of deaths and also infections. But of course, testing has not started yet. They're going to start tests, but then only probably will realize the extent of the infections. But as of now, this is just morning, and all of us wake up just to see how the figures are going. There is no let up yet, but the expectation is that in the next week or so, things might turn out better in Kerala. At least I think Maharashtra is the place which has been causing concern at this point. But the Prime Minister is very much on the job. He spoke to the chief ministers yesterday, and today is going to again address the nation. The lockdown has not been very effective in some places, particularly Kerala, because people have been defying orders and going out to the streets. And then there's a problem between Kerala and Karnataka. Karnataka closed down the borders. As a result, people from Kasargod are not able to go for treatment to Mangalore. And that's a big issue between the two states. In spite of the Prime Minister's intervention, that has not been resolved as yet. The High Court has said that the border should be opened, but Karnataka has gone to the Supreme Court. So such of these issues which are not really relevant to the main question, but that's also causing concern here, because everything contributes to the disease itself, and that is what is causing concern. But generally, when you look at the global figures, somehow maybe it's an illusion. Somehow feel that we are less affected than the others. That may be an illusion at the moment because you never know how the cycles change.
I'm just looking at the coronavirus stats on the JHU, the Johns Hopkins website, and you'll notice that India is far down the list. Must be in the 20th or so. And when you go in there, you'll see that it's very low in terms of what's happening. So only 72
yes,
deaths.
Infection is only 1637 is the figure.
Right.
For infections, right?
Right.
But deaths only 38.
They're showing 72, but still very low compared to. But also, as you said, there are not enough tests going on in India as well. So let's just bring in some more comments. I know my dad has another TV show to do in a few minutes, but please do follow him on Twitter. SREENIV is his Twitter handle, and Raksha Kumar is Raksha_Kumar, and you can see it on the screen right now. Somebody said no nepotism, please, on this show. So, but because it's my own show, it has my name on it, I'm allowed to have nepotism. A Facebook user says, I hear the government of India is silencing the media that is trying to cover the effect of the lockdown is having on the poor. Supposedly foreign journalists are not allowed in. Any insights into this? Let me hear my dad, and then we'll go to the journalist.
Well, I have not heard that here, because there is generally, of course, concern about journalism here. Even before this happened, there have been lots of reports, particularly after the Kashmir and as well as the Citizenship Act, etc. But I don't see anything in specific terms. I don't know about foreign journalists, but our journalists are working very well, and the reports are coming. And the general briefing is every day from the government as well as from the Prime Minister's office, the health department, etc. But I don't think there is any dearth of information as far as I can see.
I'm just showing everyone your Twitter feed, Dad. It's SREENIV, and he has a TV show in India, a real TV show. This is the poor man's TV show that I'm doing on AsiaNet, the largest Malayalam language network, and he has a foreign affairs TV show on which he has done 600 episodes in 14 years. So it's been a fantastic run for him. He's written 7 books. In the latest one is about India's foreign policy and and especially about the Modi-Trump relationship. So it's a fascinating look at how they are connected. Dad, I know you need to go in a few minutes because you have a TV hit. What do you want people to know about what's happening with coronavirus? How are people managing? India is a place where people are used to having a lot of middle class and upper middle class people have a lot of help, domestic help. How are people managing? What is the curfew like? Is it a real curfew or not in Kerala?
No, it's a real curfew, but the point is that Kerala's primary health centers have played a big role, as somebody said on BBC the other day, and this is not available in other states because anyone can reach a primary health center by walking a few minutes, and that kind of a situation doesn't exist elsewhere. So anything can be easily traced because of that, and that's why but the problem that Kerala is facing is basically the arrival of people from abroad. Kerala is supposed to be everywhere in the world, and we discover the numbers when we see that when there is a crisis. Like when in Ukraine, we discovered that there are 60 students doing medicine in Ukraine. Nobody had any idea of that. So like that, whenever there's a crisis, we discover our people, and when they come, all kinds of issues take place. And that is really the challenge that we had. But that has been now, when the flights start, that crisis will again come up. But everybody is very excited about the 15th of April, and they have already started booking flights and train tickets. And I don't know how realistic it is, but that is, so there is a sense of optimism in that.
Is there a chance that they will stretch out the lockdown date?
I feel they should, because if you just let everything open, there will be bigger issues. But I don't know how they are going to handle it. But the government has given an assurance that there will be no lockdown after the 14th. But restrictions will be there. So I hope the restrictions will be tough enough to control the pandemic.
And Amy Vaz 3 says, I love Kerala. For people who have not been to Kerala, I've only heard about it. Why don't you tell them a little bit about why they should, if and when we're all able to travel again, they should think about Kerala?
Well, we very modestly call it the God's own country. So we have everything that the God had to give to human beings. And so it's a green state. The weather is very gentle. All of the year you can wear the same clothes, no woolens required. And the water, the greenery, the hospitality, the food is one of the top 10 hotspots for tourism. But of course now it's all closed down. But I hope we'll come back and with greater glory and attractions. Okay, I must go. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Bye, Dad. Okay,
Bye.
thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye. Thanks very much, folks. That was my dad, TP Sreenivasan at Sreenev, Sreeniv. Please do follow him on Twitter. Some of you have already done that. You've said thank you very much. I want to just tell you a little bit more about Raksha, who is here, and she's going to be with us for the hour. She's gotten up early for us in India. Journalists in India typically don't wake up early, right, Raksha? You go to the office around 10:30, and then you stay late.
That's kind of true, except I freelance, so I sleep late and I wake up early. So, well.
Raksha is a former student of mine at Columbia Journalism School. She did so well there, and now she's gone back to India. She's a multimedia journalist there, and she writes for a variety of publications. I want to show you something that she's working on right now that's really interesting. And by the way, folks, if you're watching right now, tag your friends, share with them on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, or LinkedIn, and just make sure that people who would benefit from having this global conversation can take a look. So I want to show you something really fun that she's done, fun/poignant/ macabre. I'm not sure, all of those things put together, but this is called Letters to My Grandchild Part 1. And this is something that she's written, and I'll ask her why, and she'll tell us about it in a minute. But do follow her on Twitter at Raksha_Kumar, Kumar. And Sunny Slaughter, my dear friend Sunny, says she's following you on Twitter. So that's a great connection. And those are the connections that are happening. So now tell us about Letters to My Grandchild.
Well, in fact, my partner actually saw a video of a woman who had lived through the Spanish flu in the early part of the previous century. And there was a lot of documentation that had happened about specific pandemics in the past. Every 100 years, they say there necessarily would be a pandemic for various ecological and environmental reasons. And I see that people, end up documenting their experiences because, there is a whole host of things that is definitely different 100 years later. And I thought documenting specific things about the lockdown, about the pandemic would be interesting for the future, except I didn't want it to be a very dry kind of a documentation. It's definitely meant for future generations, but it's also meant to be have some kind of insight into the times that we are living in right now. So the first it's a 15-part series. We have a 21-day lockdown. I started slightly late. I started on the 1st of April, which was the day before yesterday. But every day there's going to be one particular focus area, and I want to talk about reflections about it, documentation about it. And these are reflections which have come after reading a lot of media. I'm doing a couple of stories on COVID in India. So there's one story on domestic violence and how victims of domestic violence are dealing with the lockdown. I mean, you have got to live with You don't have another kind of physical space that you could retire into when there is a lockdown outside, and you're literally not, like I mentioned earlier when we were speaking earlier, there is the, you can't take a walk outside, you can't just venture into the common areas in your building. And so these actually bring in the kind of insights that I want to document in these 15 parts over the next 13 days. 2 days are down, right? Yeah, over the next 13 days, about what India is going through, about at least what the part of India that I'm exposed to is going through. So this is definitely meant for documentation purposes, but also it helps me kind of reflect on issues. So spoiler, I guess. So today's letter is going to focus on the lockdown that we face right now and compare it to the literal lockdown that Kashmir had, which had nothing to do with COVID-19 for about 6 to 7 months, depending on which part of the valley you lived in. So yeah, this is a it's just my attempt to see how much I can document and how much I can kind of put out there, with my reflections, of course.
So thank you. Sunny says, yes, domestic violence is really serious at this time. I just released an oral health guide on it. Sunny, would you please message me about this separately? We're going to do a segment, our producers recommended, talking about this. So please let me know, and we'd love to get you involved. So please message me, sree@sree.net. Folks, we are about halfway through our conversation looking at what's happening in India. And on screen, you see excerpts from the letters to her unborn grandchild that Raksha has written. I don't think there's a child yet, but
No.
there is a unborn grandchild that she has written to. Would you mind reading? I don't know if you can see from there, but if you can read the opening 2-3 paragraphs. Let me pull up the first,
Sure.
the first one, right? So this is the second one. So you wrote this on April 1st. And it starts, Dear Child. So go ahead, Raksha.
Just trying to see if I could pull it out myself, but let me try and read it from the screen. So this is April 2nd. What you have up there, Sree?
Okay, hold on one second.
And
One second. I'm just going to go to April 1. Go ahead.
yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna, never mind. I found it on my screen. So yeah, April 1. Today is Fool's Day, 1 April 2020, and I'm waiting for someone to jump out from behind a bush or open an unseen door or just take to the national television to shout out April's Fool at all of us, to tell us that we've all been duped, that this was an evil practical joke. After wincing and cursing at this cruel prank, we would all go back to living like we used to 7 days ago. But I know that will not happen. The world has changed. The virus that causes COVID-19 is no April Fool's game. It is real. It lives in about 800,000 people's bodies today, while close to 40,000 more people fail to fight it. I could go on, but yeah, these are the first few graphs.
Thank you. So what has been the reaction? And you're planning to write this every day? Is that right?
Yes. So for the next 13 days, this is a 15-day thing. Well, we've been told that the lockdown would be called off on the 15th of April, or at least that's the official announcement until now. It's a 21-day lockdown. So the the hope is that the lockdown would be called off on the 14th of April, and that would probably be the last letter. And these are trying to kind of gather my thoughts on 15 different aspects uh, of how Indians have faced the lockdown. So yeah, let's see how this goes. The reaction until now has been fantastic. I've had people write to me from the UK, from Australia, a lot of people in India who say that they relate to it. A lot of people in the US, some of my classmates from Columbia, who've written to me saying that they share a lot of the experiences in their respective countries, Italy, Canada. I got a very long message from somebody I've never met yesterday, I mean, who I've never met. She lives in Rome, and she's written to me this extremely beautiful text message about how she feels that reading about how India deals with it fills her with hope because Italy is in a lot worse condition. So yeah, until now it's been a very very warm kind of reception that the series of blogs have got. But I mean, things are just warming up. I will definitely be writing about things that are a lot more controversial in the future. And the Indian troll army is extremely potent and has targeted me several times in the past. So well, that's definitely going to be a part of the experience, and I'm not going to lie to myself about it.
Thank you. Kalpana Mohan, watching from the Bay Area, says, that's such a wonderful idea, Raksha. I wish someone could have documented how the plague ravaged India the year my father was born in 1923. India lost 200,000 people to the plague that year. And India, of course, had a much smaller population at the time. Let's check in and see what else is happening. Tim has tagged a bunch of his friends. Folks, this is such an interesting conversation. Share right now, tag your friends, let people understand what's happening in India. Stefan says, what I really worry about besides this initial cycle of the virus is a fierce comeback after a possible downturn in summer. They predict another bad period in the fall. It's scary, says Stefan. Very sad to see that. C. Gonzalez Jr. Is watching from Jose is watching from San Jose, Costa Rica. Just great to have everybody here together and participating. And I'm so grateful to everyone who's here. Please tag your friends. Someone says, must watch Gary Hustwitz Urbanized streaming free. So I think that'll be important documentary. Diana is watching. She's our dear friend from California. She's one of the health communicators at the San Mateo County Health System in the Bay Area. And she says, you must come visit California. If you come to San Francisco, you're more than welcome to stay with us. Look at that. It would be our pleasure, says Diana. How nice. This is American hospitality. Look at that. Diana and everyone working in healthcare, we salute you and thank you for everything that you and all healthcare workers are doing. In India, you had some kind of celebration or a tribute that you all paid one day to the healthcare workers, right? In America, we do it every day at 7 p.m.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. But yes, it was a Sunday on the 22nd of March when the Prime Minister had asked people to come out into their balconies to definitely maintain some distance between each other, but come out into the balconies, come out on the streets, and use plates, pots, and pans, and anything that could convey gratitude, and that was definitely done. Just a couple of things, Sree, if you're not taking any more questions, or if you'd want to kind of pivot to a few things that I think your dad kind of pointed out.
Yeah, sure. We'll do that. I just want to remind everyone what they're watching, and it's because some people just stumble into the show. You're watching a conversation about India under COVID-19. We are under lockdown in India, as we are in many places in the world. And this is my Sree COVID-19 call, hashtag Sree COVID-19 call. Our friends Rose Horowitz and Vandana Menon are tweeting right now. Rose Horowitz 31 and Vandana _Menon. Thank you so much for tweeting. Our guest right now is Raksha Kumar, a multimedia journalist blogging about life in India today, and find her letters to my grandchild on Medium. Just wonderful series of blogs that she's writing. We would love to have you participate. If you have suggestions for ways in which I could take this. We have met people in Italy. We've met people yesterday in Toronto and San Francisco. We have talked about economic hardship in America. We have talked about what will the world learn. You can see the entire archives by going to YouTube right now or after the show is over and look for Sreenet. SREENET is my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. I'm trying to grow that so that I can be more helpful. You might be wondering, why do we do so many different channels? Why are we on so many different channels? And that's so that we can share what we're doing in a more useful, interesting way to more folks. And that's why we are doing this. And I also want to thank our wonderful first sponsor, and that's Tim Sohn and Sohn Media Solutions, Social Media Solutions, SONH. You can see the ad on the screen right now. I'm so excited to have a sponsor. And the price of his Survive with Live video course is $0 to $100. So anybody watching from anywhere in the world can join. It's a combination of live video as well as videos that you'll be watching, some group exercises, and he's charging for a 2-month program, $0 to $100. What a wonderful gesture to do that. I hope you will go in and subscribe. He only has a few seats left. Sohn Social Media Solutions, and we have several folks who said they've already signed up. Learn how to go live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. I'm using all of those platforms in order to tell our stories here. So I hope you will get a chance to check that out. And I also want to tell you that we are looking for more sponsors. So this gives you a sense of our sponsorship. We've had 200,000 viewers for the first 15 shows. So just take a photograph or a screenshot of this, or just email me, sree@sree.net. It's very easy for you to contact me and get and create an ad with us. I also want to show you that we are on multiple platforms. And one of the things we're trying to do is to show people the value of being on multiple platforms. By being on Facebook Live, we get broad reach and quality comments. By being on Twitter and Periscope, targeted reach and global comments. YouTube, we get long-term archive. With LinkedIn, connecting and talking with professionals and peers. If you like the kind of work we're doing, hire my team to help your organization or event. We're working with organizations across the world, and we're just delighted to do that and help folks. Just this morning, I talked to the leading infectious disease professor at Hong Kong for Hong Kong University, and we had 20,000 plus people join us. It was an amazing opportunity. So please do join us and please participate. We are so grateful. Tag a friend, share with a friend. We have many interesting, exciting guest speakers to come, including the editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal is going to join us. And for anybody watching from New York, the great Bill Ritter, who is a New York City icon as a journalist and journalist on Channel 4 and anchor on Channel 7 News here in New York, ABC 7 Eyewitness News. He's going to be speaking with us in the days ahead. So it's just a very humbling time to be able to bring everybody together. And that's why we're doing these, and we're getting such good traction. I'm very, very grateful. Let's see some of the comments coming in from folks, including Amy Vaz has now given Raksha an invitation to Greenville, South Carolina, so that she can go there. And Ashok says, can you please include me in your discussions? And he's given us his number. I'd love to have you, Ashok, on a future show. I think that would be very great. And Mahesh has a question. What kind of controls can be effective after the lockdown to prevent the spread, Raksha?
I think that's a fantastic question. And I think that's a question that everybody has been asking. I would like to point, Mahesh, to a couple of stories that kind of attempt to give him an answer to that question. So one of it is in the Indian Express, and the other is in scroll.in. And I mean, I'm happy to include that in maybe in the Facebook comments or in your tweets, and you could share it with him. I'm just a journalist who's tracking this from relative safety. So whatever I say would not and should not be considered expert opinion at all. I base my analysis on certain experts in the field, and from having spoken to a whole bunch of people from different professions and platforms. So one of the things that comes up again and again when we speak to people who study pandemics is that the lockdown should not, the lifting of the lockdown should not be like an absolute open back to normal like we were 8 days ago again. So it should be a gradual kind of opening up. and this would necessarily mean that specific public places, so your whatever is considered non-essential, so your theaters and malls and other spaces where you do know that a lot of people would gather, um, should still continue under lockdown situations, although that would not be called a lockdown. It people are calling it partial lockdown, but I'm not really sure what that would be called. But that's one of the things that one of the suggestions that's coming up. Then the other suggestion that's also coming up is that India has a specific clusters and hotspots. So what that means is if you have more than one case in a neighborhood, then that would be considered to be a hotspot. And if you have more than one hotspot in a particular radius, then that would be a cluster. So clusters and hotspots will remain under lockdown while the rest of the country would be opened up in phases. So this is option number two. I'm not really sure, Mahesh, if this satisfactorily answers your question. But I would love to point you to experts who've tried to answer this in a much better fashion.
Oh, well, you've done well. Thank you. And you've already tweeted out the URL of your blog series, Letters to My Grandchild. And I hope people pick that up. Just follow Raksha_Kumar. And Tim says that YouTube is awesome. And that's why you should subscribe, because subscribers receive notifications every time you go live. And Stefan says Tim is a great teacher. And it's his ad that we ran for the live streaming class, $0 to $100. I hope a lot of people will continue to sign up. One thing that I do want to say that I'm experimenting for the first time, if anyone's watching and is on Instagram, I'm live on Instagram by showing a phone over my shoulder. Let me see if I can show it to you there. So I'm on, this is very meta, as you can see. So that's the Instagram stream right there. So if any of you are on Instagram and are not following me, not connected to me, Sreenet is my Instagram account, and I'm testing that. And Tim and others will tell me if that's a good idea or not. But it's just a way to increase the reach and share what we're doing with more people. So we're really glad about that. Linda says, are cases in India mostly amongst the elderly or across all ages?
In India, it is across all ages. And that's actually one of the reasons why, certain experts have been saying that the reason why the mortality rate in India is low is because it's across all ages. We are a very young country. The median age is 27. So 50% or more of India lives under the age of 27. The people who are very, very young. So if you are young and you have the ability to kind of recover within a span of 7 to 15 days, then the country as a whole will not be overwhelmed. And this is actually something that experts claim that this is one of the reasons why India is not following the global trend. And of course, there are several other Southeast Asian countries that they cite as example for this as well. So your younger population, more people across age groups being affected, and in fact, it would have been great, Sree, to have your dad answer this question, because a lot of the reasons certain doctors are claiming that Kerala is more affected is because of the elderly population there. So if you look at the median age of Kerala, it's a lot higher than several other parts of the country. And the number of people who died in Kerala, the number of deaths in Kerala is higher. So it would have been great if he were here and if he could have answered the question. But a simple answer to Linda's question is that it is across all ages.
Thank you. We have folks checking in from all over. Mark is from Durham, North Carolina. Have you been to the Carolinas, Raksha?
No, actually, but I drove through Raleigh when I was in New York and I was going down south. But no, I haven't really stopped there. I haven't been there enough. I just realized it's been close to 9 years since I left the US and I haven't gone back. And all these invitations are extremely overwhelming, and I'd love to go back. Thank you so much, all of you.
Yeah.
So yeah, nine long years.
Yeah. So when things are better, I hope you'll come. Joe is watching outside Georgia. I mean, outside Atlanta. And he says he's also a former New Yorker. We are under lockdown starting at midnight through April 13th. So about a 2 week lockdown. And Joe, tell us what life is like under that lockdown. And we had a question earlier for you in terms of Raksha. Amy asked, how are kids coping? Are folks who don't have the internet, will they fall behind? Please talk about that.
March is annual examination time for most kids in India, and March. So most of the in across the country, I'm not really sure about the northeast, but apart from the northeastern parts of the country, you had children from ages from class 6 to 7 or 6 to 8, I think, who were just given a pass to the for a year or so they didn't have to give their exams. They were just considered to have been promoted to the following year. Board exams. So in India, we have something called the board exams, where you have the state overseeing the exam at specific juncture. So you have class 10, class 12, and in some states like Karnataka, class 7 that have board exams. And these were the exams that the state held on till the end before they had to cancel them. And for board exams, students are being so they're taking an average marks for the entire year to either promote or not promote students. So, if, for instance, if you were to take your class 10 board exams this year, they would take an average of all your scores of the previous year and then decide if they were to promote you or not. So school kids, I think in that sense, it's relatively okay. But I'm definitely talking about the metropolis. I'm definitely talking about neighborhoods that are better to do, relatively privileged. You have government schools, children in government schools that are doing a lot worse, specifically in far-flung areas and in rural areas. I'm sorry. The other question was actually didn't have to do with schools, did it?
No, but here's a question. How are the young people? Are they following social distancing rules in India? In America, they're not.
Yeah. So, okay, it depends on who you ask this question to in India, and you'll get a different answer. I guess that's true of most questions to most people in India. But so you have in larger cities, we've seen videos that have been circulated on social media from Delhi, from Bangalore, certainly from Bangalore, where the police has taken younger people to task for stepping out, for loitering, for going around the city in groups, because suddenly you have cities in India that are completely empty, and it's not an everyday experience. I mean, people are everywhere all the time. So you've had the police take stricter measures, and that's, I guess, both criticized and appreciated in equal measure, depending on who you speak to. So that actually deters a lot of younger people from coming out. But there's certainly no spring breaks, no Florida beaches happening in India. That's not a phenomenon. So you don't see a lot of younger people going out and enjoying or taking holidays. It's become a very, very serious concern that the police and Maharashtra police in Bombay, the Karnataka police, and I mean the Bangalore police, the Bombay police have taken very, very seriously. So the two major hubs, I would say, or two major groups of people who are either not able to maintain social distancing or are not maintaining social distancing deliberately are the internal migrants that we spoke about, who are trying to just go back to their homes in large numbers, or there are specific religious gatherings across all religions. You hear, so yesterday there was a religious gathering for a specific festival in Shirdi, which is in the central part of India, so in Maharashtra, in the state of Maharashtra. You had another religious gathering in Delhi, which was a Muslim religious gathering. There was a religious gathering in Punjab, a Sikh religious gathering, and these are the kind of people that I think are not maintaining social distancing I mean, who are deliberately kind of flouting the rules. But no, we certainly don't have the kind of spring break phenomenon here.
Raksha, we have about 10, 12 minutes left with you, and I want to make sure we get as many questions in. So we'll do quick questions and quick answers. Anita is pointing out she's a former New Yorker, wonderful dancer who lives in Chennai, and she says impatient youth who live in cramped spaces are roaming around the streets. Cops are cracking down. Tell us what we're looking at in this picture. It's a stunning photograph. Just so tell us, what are these pictures? The internet's been full of, if anybody types in migrant workers in India, you'll see thousands of photos like this.
So it would have been great to see the date on this photo, because you had the
2 days ago.
Right. So you had the Delhi Chief Minister announce that. So like we mentioned earlier, the Prime Minister announced a lockdown with very little heads up. So you had a lot of people who were desperate to go home because these are daily wage laborers. That means that if they don't earn that particular day's wage, they can't stay in the city, which is really expensive, for them to live. So they had to go back to their villages, their small towns, and almost immediately, almost overnight, and they didn't have transportation because trains and buses stopped plying, which meant that you had a lot of people gather in bus stations. And the Chief Minister of Delhi announced that he had organized for 200 buses to take migrant workers back home. But then you've got to remember that we're talking in millions and millions, and 200 buses are not really enough. So the image that you showed us earlier, Sree, are of migrants who were leaving Delhi to go back to their villages in the neighboring states of Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Rajasthan, and Punjab on foot. So people walking several hundreds of kilometers to just get home because they can't afford to live in the cities anymore.
And what is this? They're migrants being sprayed with chemicals by people in hazmat suits.
Yeah, so this, I think, is an image from Bareilly in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh. And so one important aspect of the migration story that I think a lot of media has overlooked is that when migrants eventually reach home, they are ostracized because the villagers think that these are migrants who've come back with the disease. So the image that you just showed is of health workers spraying some kind of a disinfectant on the migrants before they're let into Bareilly, which is a smaller town, but I'm sure this is about specific villages in and around Bareilly town. So they maintain social distancing, which is probably good, but it's also about how these migrants are treated once they reach their villages.
Parak says only 50,000 or so tests have been done in India. Is this accurate? How easy is it to get a test? Can you get one today, Raksha?
No. So the last ICMR, the Indian Council for Medical Research briefing, said that you could only get a test if you showed specific symptoms, and if you showed specific symptoms for specific number of days. It's gotten easier in the past week to get a test because a lot of private labs have been commissioned to do tests now, but it's certainly not as easy. You need to so test kits are not easily available, so you need to basically prove to the authorities that you deserve a test kit. So that means, do you have the flu for over 7 days? What is your age? What is your medical background? Did you come into contact with anybody who went to specific countries, etc.? And if you ticked all these boxes, then you would get to test. But this is in government facilities. If you paid enough money, which I understand is between 4,500 rupees and 6,500 rupees, you could get a test in a private lab. But that's not easy either, because even private labs have their own constraints in terms of the equipment, and also in terms of so for instance, if you got a test in Chennai, in the south of the country, the private lab had to send your samples to Delhi in the north of the country, because only those labs were notified, and only those labs had the equipment to test you. So it's not a very easy thing, not anymore.
Well, thank you. Let's see. Sabahat says, did I miss any discussion on the issue of congregations of faith and discussions of the Tablighi Jamaat? Would love to hear Raksha's thoughts on that.
I guess, we did kind of tangentially touch upon it, didn't we, Sree, when we spoke about how it's been really difficult for the authorities to keep people from religious congregations. And these are across all religions. The day the lockdown was announced on the 25th of March, so the first day of a nationwide lockdown, you had the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, India's most populous state. It would have been the fifth most populous country if it had been a country of its own. Walk into a Ram idol or a Ram procession. So this is another religious procession. He considers himself to be a very religious man. Yesterday, you had two politicians from the southern and the central state of Telangana who went into religious I'm not really sure if it was for Ram Navami, which is another festival for Lord Ram, but basically they were they were leading a congregation of 1,000 people, again a religious congregation, the Tablighi Jamaat, where 9,000 people have been traced from across, I think, 18 countries. And all these 9,000 people now live in India across various states, and they've all been quarantined, they've all been isolated. There was a Sikh man who had attended a Sikh religious congregation about 7 days ago. So definitely, I mean, this is India is living up to its stereotype of being an overly religious country. And you had people come on national television and say, look, if God has to kind of present us with death, then he's going to do it anyway. So, we might as well die while praying to him. And you've had a lot of, and you've also had Hindu fundamentalists talking about the Tablighi Jamaat as, a targeted Muslim kind of a, I mean, that it was intentional for Muslims to have done that. So it's becoming extremely religious, and I think that this is just going to take the focus away from what the disease actually is, which is a public health crisis, which is a national emergency. It's going to be an economic crisis. And so, I mean, it's really high time that we keep all religious kind of differences aside. All religions across the board within the country have been guilty of having congregations after the government asked them not to.
Thank you. Linda says the US seems to be changing attitudes about using face masks. Are they being used in India, even homemade versions?
Yes, yes, they are being used in India. A lot of homemade versions. We've had doctors come on national television and ask people to not use face masks if they do not have, if they do not show specific symptoms. But people are using them anyway. We've not seen any major case of a severe, dearth of face masks anywhere. But you do see people on the street walking around with face masks all the time. Very interestingly, we don't venture out a lot, but we venture out for specific essentials. And yesterday, my partner had ventured out to get some milk, and he said, I saw a woman who was wearing a face mask, a homemade, she tied a cloth around her mouth, and she just pulled it down for those 2 seconds, enough for her to spit on the street and then put it back on and walk away. So we were talking about how useless it is to be using face masks if you cannot improve hygienic conditions in general and change behavioral patterns.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Colin's watching from Johannesburg on LinkedIn. Lily says, hello, everyone. Hope you're safe and healthy. Kim is watching from Australia. Parna says, all for this form of nepotism. He was talking about my dad, who was earlier on the show, and Raksha, my former student. And Brian says, hope you're staying safe and sending all good vibes to your family. Kim from Australia asks, given that a large percentage of offshore outsourcing is done in large call centers, work centers, have they been shut down? And are those also considered essential, or have they been shut down?
So a couple of stories have come out on this. Yes. So what is essential, and the central government said this in its guidelines, is for 4G services to keep going. So if you have a technological company that deals with these services, then you are going to minimize your staff, but you're continuing to run. But a lot of the other technological parks across Pune, which is really badly affected, Bangalore, have minimized their staff. So if you can work from home, you're working from home, and there is no need to have large offices open for more staff than required.
My friend Anita says people are sitting before their TV screens with camphor and performing the sacred arti, praying to God Ram to help them and save them from the coronavirus. The popular TV serial Ramayan is started to being rebroadcast daily. How are they reporting mortality related to COVID-19? Do you think it is systematic the way it's being done?
So I'm not really sure I understand what the question is in terms of how is mortality being reported. I mean, I do know that. So we follow the ICMR website, which is the Indian government figures. Follow the site that you're talking about, Sree Johns Hopkins website, which is keeping a track of worldwide figures. I don't really know if there is a system to this, but I'm happy to check it out.
And are there enough ventilators in India? We're seeing a big crisis around that in the US.
So, like we mentioned earlier, the mortality rate is relatively low. And at this point, we do not have people across the country raising concerns over ventilators or face masks or sanitizers. We did have a few social media posts that spoke about how certain things were going off the shelf, but nothing as serious as it looks like in the US. Not until now, at least. But things are really dynamic, so you never really know.
All right. So before we go, Raksha, before I let you go and I say goodbye to everybody, I just wanted to get kind of some final thoughts. What should people be looking for? There's so much news going on. It's so hard to keep track of everything. So what are the things that people should be looking for? And what are some good websites to keep track of India news if you're not a regular India watcher, but you want to be?
I'll tell you what I look at. And
Yeah.
let's just assume that those are the better ones. So I follow the Indian Express, which is a daily newspaper. It's published from, it's headquartered in Mumbai, in the western part of the city. I'm sorry, in the western part of the country. I also look at scroll.in. And these are my two main sources of news. But of course, there is the Hindu.com. Hindu is again a national newspaper. Scroll is a digital only. But they do some fantastic coverage. They run on subscriptions, so it would be great if, and it's not a lot of money at all. So these are my three main sources of news. I do not watch television, so unfortunately, I won't be able to tell you much about what TV channel one should watch. But one good way of keeping track of Indian news is to get to follow specific journalists on Twitter. And that would be you would sift through better information if you knew who to follow on Twitter, and I'm sure Sree can provide you with a good enough list there.
But look at her Twitter handle. Everybody, please follow her and see what she's posting. And I also want to show you what trolling looks like in India. If you can't read Hindi, this is just somebody who flew by and wrote the word bakwas, which means BS, basically, right? Or like ridiculous, stupid. I don't know what the right BS, I think, is the best way to.
Yeah, it is. It's the
ridiculous.
best.
It means ridiculous or something. But anyway, he just wrote that and went away. And that's the kind of pitiful, cowardly trolling that takes place in India. And someone like Raksha, who does a lot of serious, important reporting about serious, important things, gets trolled a lot, as do a lot of journalists. And then on top of that, being a woman on Twitter in India, if you're seen as someone who speaks up against the establishment, shines light on problematic issues, there's a whole troll army that comes after you. And you mentioned television. There is a station in India called Republic that if you watch Fox News and think that Fox News is terrible for the lies and propaganda that it spreads, Republic makes it look like left-wing television because it is over the top. And I had the misfortune to one day be on the most famous host and owner's previous television show, and he yelled at me for 30 minutes, and I barely got to speak. And there were like 50, maybe 10 people in these boxes all around us. It was it was a big total waste of time. But that's the kind of media that a lot of Indians are consuming. Fortunately, not everybody. And India also has a very vibrant, independent television and especially print press history. And so it's good to see how many news channels there are, and certainly how many newspapers, and what's happening with that. So I think that's really important. Look at all these great comments coming in. Tim says there's somebody on IG with the handle Sree COVID-19 call man 1. Tim, was that you? And Joe says, what is India's sentiments toward China? I know they do work together a lot. They're frenemies because a lot of the masks and things are coming from there, and they have border disputes, and they went to war in '62. And India knows that China is the big power in the region. And Parak has given the links to Hindu.com and Scroll.com. And a Facebook user says, thanks, Raksha, for your dedication. And Sunny says, my kind of woman, go Raksha. So that's funny. Robinder says, the famous host. And Anita says, the president or the prime minister will be speaking 25 minutes. He does not shoot off his mouth like the president of the United States. And Mohan says, I've already been hearing her and Sree since your laptop has been audible in the whole house. Thanks for everyone chiming in also. Thanks, Mohan, and thanks, Kalpana, for waking up or keeping everybody up late in California. Not so late. It's only 8 p.m. in California, but it's 8 a.m. in India now, 8:30 a.m. So we're going to let Raksha go. Let her start her day. Raksha, you're doing something that I'm told not to do, which is touch my face. You keep touching your face. So even if your hands are clean, you should not do that, as I've been told multiple times on my program. Stop touching your face. So I'm going to try, and you're going to try as well. So
that's true. That's true. Thank you so much. I'll definitely try, and you know, I'll ensure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, thank you. And everyone, please follow Raksha on television. And we would love, or not on television, on Twitter. She doesn't even watch TV. So
I don't watch TV news.
Raksha_Kumar. And thank you, Raksha, for your time, your insight. We really, really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you another time. Thanks. Bye-bye.
So much. Thank you.
All right, folks, that was Raksha Kumar. Absolutely terrific. I'm sorry, there was a little glitch there, but thank you so much for watching, and please follow her. I love doing the show because I can bring people around the world together in a conversation. I want to thank Vandana_Menon and Rose Horowitz 31 for their live tweeting, which has been fantastic. And we're getting real traction around the world with our live tweets. And we want to make sure that you are able to participate. If you would like to join the conversation as a speaker, because I'm arranging shows all the time, please let me know, and I would love to bring you on. We have several people who said they'll join us the next time we do an India show. We have several really cool shows coming up, especially Sunday night is Positivity Night, 9 p.m. Eastern. That's about an hour before the show started today. 9 p.m. Eastern, we do a show on positivity, and we're going to have an expert here to tell you how to be positive when it is, in fact, hard to be positive with all the news that's going on. Before I leave you, I want to tell you a couple of things, share a couple of things with you. Today was a kind of turning point in my understanding of what's happening in the world. Today, I started my day with a 9 a.m. Show with my friends at Hong Kong University. And I've been doing these shows now for 3 weeks with Hong Kong University. And today, we spoke about masks and other lessons from Asia, as well as vaccines, with the top infectious disease specialist at Hong Kong University. It was really a powerful hour. And he spoke specifically about the importance of masks of any kind. There's an N95 mask. Whenever I've used it, I reuse it because there's a shortage for healthcare workers in this country. But he said even a surgical mask will make a difference. Everyone should wear one. In China, in Japan, in South Korea, they've been wearing masks. In Hong Kong, it has helped flatten the curve. In Japan, you almost hear nothing about what's happening in Japan because they've done a good job. The masks have made a difference. Today, the mayor of New York said everybody should wear something when they go out, even if they don't have a mask. Even a scarf will help. And I hate to think about how many weeks of opportunity we lost, months of opportunity, because in America we were told not to wear masks unless you were sick yourself. And partly it's a cultural thing, and partly it's a medical understanding. It tells you that nobody knows what is the right thing to do. Even the great Dr. Anthony Fauci, everybody is guessing, and that's why we are so helpless in the light, when we're facing this virus. But please do cover your face. That's what I learned today, the importance of the mask. If you're going out, wear the mask, because now we also heard that instead of just being coughed on or being sneezed on, even if you breathe on somebody, you can transmit the virus. And that was what was revealed at the White House discussion today. And so we are really grateful to our healthcare workers for all they're doing. And I also wanted to say that we're talking about India, and I wanted to pay tribute before we go to a great Indian that we lost, an Indian American named Floyd Cardoz. And I'm going to show you a little bit about the coverage of his passing. A wonderful human being and a celebrity chef. Some of you have seen him on Ugly Delicious Season 2. It's on Netflix right now. He changed Indian cooking in America and American cooking in America by making sophisticated Indian cuisine available, and he was celebrated for that. And he was a star on the New York City food scene, as I said about him. Just a wonderful man, and I was so shocked when we lost him this past week. Just a great guy. The last time I talked to him, we were together at a Bombay Shirt Company event. Bombay Shirt sponsors my speaking tour, and at it we said we're going to work on a social media social media and food event together, and I still want to do one in his honor at some point. And the last thing was, he said, let's do it, when I tweeted about it. Just what a wonderful man. Check out the David Chang show, Ugly Delicious. He also won Top Chef Masters. And here are some of the tweets that other people posted. Yale professor Priyamvada Natarajan, who knows something about stars. She's an astronomer and astrophysicist. And she talked about, so sorry to hear of his loss. She had met him a few times at Tabla. Danny Meyer, the great American food expert and restaurateur, said, love you so much, Floyd Cardoz. And here's David Chang, who said, I don't want to believe this, that Floyd has died, the co-owner of Bombay Canteen, Pawala, Bread Bar, Tabla, all of these wonderful restaurants. And Amit Prabhu, who's a PR expert in India, says, unbelievable and sad. Had dinner at his restaurant and caught up with him 11 months ago in New York City. This is gut-wrenching. Pradnya says, tabla was a revelation for so many of us back in the day. Here's a recipe for his legendary cocktail. This is all on a thread that I shared on Twitter. So if you search Floyd Cardoz and Sree, you'll find these. Vishal Mishra, who is a professor at Columbia and the co-founder of Crick Info, says, we loved his restaurants in New York City. Once we were waiting for a while, so he came up and personally prepared and served appetizers for the kids to keep them happy, then autographed his book and gave it to us. A genuinely nice guy, R.I.P., he says. And Lisa Fung, many of you know, the amazing culture monster, a franchise at the LA Times. She wrote that he was only 59. I love going to Tabla. And before we go, I'm going to play the news that came from Vishnu Som about the death of Floyd Cardoz. So you can hear this. I'm going to just play that now here.
Cardoz, a celebrity chef who ran the iconic Bombay Canteen. Mr. Cardoz was admitted to a hospital in the United States on the 18th of March after testing positive. He has a lot of friends who remember him now. One of them, TP Sreenivasan, joins us live from New York. Tell us a little bit about your memories, Sree, of Mr. Cardoz.
Greetings from New York City. I'm sorry, Vishnu, we're talking under these circumstances. I know you have wonderful memories of New York. It was shocking news this morning to hear that Floyd Cardoz has passed. There's no one with more energy, more love of life than Floyd. And we have known him for more than 20 years in the United States. He changed not just the Indian food scene in America, but the American food scene in America. He was able to run restaurants like Tabla, which was under the legendary Danny Meyer, who is known to every foodie in the world. And he also ran Bread Bar and Pawala and all these restaurants. And as he did that, he helped people understand the value of Indian cooking. He was also the winner of Top Chef Masters, which is all-star chefs cooking in America. And he won that. And he was on Ugly Delicious, which is a really popular Netflix show. He was on season 2. I saw him just 2 years ago. We were talking about working on a social media and food event. And I tweeted out the last picture was a comment from him saying, let's do this. And that was his attitude. Every single person who's been responding and writing in on my Twitter feed are all saying what a wonderful man he was and what a loss.
Yeah, a huge loss indeed. Very important to mention at this stage that he'd flown in from Mumbai recently, and health authorities in the United States have also reached out to health authorities in Mumbai to try and ensure that people who may have come in contact with him are potentially screened. Sree Sreenivasan, good to see you, good to talk to you.
So you get the idea what an important and wonderful man he was, and what a loss. True Indian American hero to so many of us, and we are so sad that he is gone. He posted pictures of himself at the in the hospital bed. He had no idea that he was going to die. He was just 59 years old. My deepest condolences to him and his family and his wife Barkha. Just wanted to share some of the final comments here. Jonathan says, great show. Thank you, Jonathan, for watching. Rimna says she watched, but don't worry, everything is archived. You just go back on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Everything's archived, so you can watch it again. Please subscribe on YouTube, and you'll get an alert every time I'm live. I'm doing this multiple times a day. I'm sorry, multiple times a week, once a day, every day. This is 21 straight days of doing this. Parak is saying he's trying to figure out DIY masks plus social distancing plus washing hands. Mark says, learned we lost Ellis Marsalis, the father of Branford and Winton, to the virus. I had no idea. These are two wonderful, legendary jazz musicians, and their father, Ellis, has died. I'm sorry. And he himself was a true pioneer in jazz and the New Orleans sound. Parak says, huge loss, so sorry. And Purva says, so sorry about Floyd. Purva, thank you for being here. And also, I want to give my regards to and best wishes to your family. We lost Professor Susham Bedi, who taught me Hindi in the New York consulate, and wonderful lady. I want to talk more about her at a future time, but thank you, Purva, for being with us. And thank you all for joining. I want to, before I go, thank our sponsor. This is want to tell you about our sponsor and thank Tim Sohn from Sohn Social Media Solutions. I'm sure he's asleep because it's 11:18 past his bedtime. And we want to thank him for sponsoring. And look at this wonderful deal he's offering. A $0 to $100 for a 2-month program that you can sign up for right now. Sohn Social Media Solutions, SOHN Social Media Solutions. Please sign up right now if you can. If you're interested, it's a 2-month program, $0 to $100 for a 2-month program. Well worth it. He is terrific. And I'm so grateful to Tim for being our very first sponsor. We already have others who've told us they will sponsor. So I'm excited to bring on more sponsors. His course starts April 6th. So if you're watching a recording after April 6th, contact him. See if he's doing more stuff. His Twitter, his email is tim@sohnsocialmediasolutions.com. And you can also, his phone number's also on his website, sohnsocialmediasolutions.com. And want to also invite anyone who'd like to advertise with us. Please do join us. We've had more than 200,000 viewers for just our first 15 episodes, and we're already on episode number 21. And we have so many great guests still to come. I wanted to show you this nice cartoon that a friend of mine made named Tommy. And the cartoon is of King Corona, like King Kong. And Tommy's THOMMY, that's his byline. And there's coronavirus on top of the Empire State Building. And Tommy is an Indian American. And thank you for this piece of art. Beautiful, sad, funny, scary piece of art all at the same time. Purva says, thank you, Sree. Kalpana says, great show. So sorry to hear about these losses and to think that these are the first of many. Yes, indeed. That is the really sad part, because there will be many. No one will go untouched by this. A lot of us went untouched by 9/11. We knew friends of friends who were in the building. We knew friends who were in the building but escaped. But this is nothing like this. This is a global pandemic, and everyone is going to be affected in some way. We keep saying, will this change everything? And we don't know the answer to that, but we hope it will. We did not learn the lessons of 9/11. America just moved on. The people of Iraq, the people of Afghanistan, and the American soldiers who died did not move on, but everybody else did. If America does not learn from this pandemic, we will have more such pandemics in the future, and we will all be in trouble. So we hope we learn the lessons from this, and we hope that we will all be safe the next time, and we have to get through this time for all of us. So thank you very much, everybody. Please be safe. Please share your comments, Sree@Sree.net, @Sree on Twitter. Subscribe to YouTube, Sreenet, SREENET. I'm very grateful to all of you for watching. If you're curious, look at all these states in America that are still don't have full stay-at-home orders. The entire country of India is under lockdown, but parts of America, all of these parts are in places that are Trump country. All of these places get their news from Fox News, where they were saying this is a hoax, and they will, along with the rest of us, pay a price for what the way in which this information was shared. And I'm sorry to say that that's the case. But thank you very much, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you on the next Sree Daily COVID-19 Global Call. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you again soon. Bye.